Всем огромный привет и добро пожаловать на мой канал. Для тех, кто не знает, меня зовут Language Simp, я тупой американец и я говорю по-русски. Сегодня мы будем говорить о русском языке. This is the start of a new series where I go through the languages of the world and review them, sort of like a film critic or a video game reviewer, but for languages, specifically from the point of view of a language learner. I'll discuss who speaks them, their grammar, their difficulty, and tons of other stuff before finally giving them an official Language Simp certified rating on the Simp scale. I decided to start this series with Russian because I just got back into studying it on Speakly, who is the sponsor for today's video, and it's finally forcing me to improve my Russian typing skills. If you enjoyed this video, let me know in the comments which language you'd like me to cover next, and without further ado, давайте начнем.
I can't even legally travel to Russia, and they invaded Ukraine. I don't want to support that. Why would anyone learn Russian in 2022?
I'm glad you asked, babe. I am not learning Russian to go to Russia. If you're a monolingual beta, you live under a rock, or you live in your mom's basement like me, Russian is a Slavic language spoken by over 150 million people in 20 different countries if we count CSGO as a country. So right off the bat, we have an amazing reason to learn it. 20 different countries? That's so much DLC. And 150 million people? That's a ton of NPCs to interact with. Roughly 6 times the population of North Korea, to be exact.
So what other countries speak Russian?
A lot of cool ones. You've got parts of the Baltic states, Belarus, parts of Ukraine, Azerbaijan, and even Georgia. But the real reason I learned Russian is for the stands.
Pakistan?
Нет, закрой свой рот. I mean Tajikistan, Kyrgyzstan, Uzbekistan, and Kazakhstan, some of the most gigachad countries in the entire universe, which also happen to speak Russian. You could obviously instead learn each of those countries' respective languages, but I think it would be easier to just learn Russian, which will unlock communication in all of the stands. These places have some of the coolest architecture and landscapes I've ever seen, and I'd bet all my Luodingo lingots that one day I'll leave my wife and kids to retire in Uzbekistan. But if you're a broke beta and can't travel to the stands, there is also a little part of New York called Brighton Beach where Russians hang out all day and snort borscht. So if you learn some Russian, you can shock these native speakers without even needing a taser. And for those of you who are antisocial, you're in luck as well. You can also have fun with Russian because it is in fact the second most used language on the internet. Speaking of the language, I can't think of a lingo on this floating rock that is more challenging, frustrating, badass, yet rewarding than Russian. When you first look at this thing, if you're anything like me, you'll be in shock. It's honestly pretty intimidating. The first thing that you'll have to learn is the new writing system. What on earth is this strange alien adaptation of the American alphabet? It's like they copied our homework, changed a few things, and submitted it to the teacher, but I won't let them get away with it. Let's take a look at some of these letters. This is literally just the number 3. It's like they weren't even trying. They could have added a spike on its head or a line through the middle, but no, that would be too much effort. This crab-looking abomination also somehow weaseled its way into the alphabet. And this one letter looks like 2 letters. Why did they do that? Well, at least it does make the most beautiful noise on the planet. Ooh! These two don't even make a sound. They're completely silent, but they modify the pronunciation of the letter that comes before them. Why couldn't they just be normal and add accent markers or something? Then you've got all these characters that were clearly stolen from the American alphabet. How is this buffoonery allowed legally under the Geneva Convention? Needless to say, the writing system is complicated and convoluted, but you will feel a straight rush of dopamine once you master it, and you can memorize it in roughly, I'd say, 3 minutes. Alright, so once you've got the alphabet down, it's time to put those letters together to form something we linguists call words. What's the first word you need to learn when you start studying a new language? No, babe. The first word that you need to learn in any language is hello. To say hello, it's just a very short and extremely simple word, рентген электрокардиографический. Now you say it. No, I'm just kidding. That means electrocardiographic x-ray. Hello is just здравствуйте. That's gotta be the easiest word to pronounce in any language I've ever seen. Здравствуйте. It really rolls off the tongue, and I hope you're already seeing how anyone could learn Russian. There is a beta way of saying it, which is just привет, but say that to the wrong person and you might get the shit beat out of you. On the off chance you ever find yourself in a Russian prison, there's also a top secret extra formal way of saying hello, which is easier to pronounce than the others. It's just suka. It feels great to get good at speaking any language, but Russian is an entirely different beast. When you finally pronounce a word correctly in Russian, it feels like you're floating on a cloud made of comprehensible input, all the way up to polyglot paradise where the angels switch languages every word and mistakes are impossible to make. My absolute favorite word hands down is blah, which is the preposition that means for in American. This thing is wild and still blows my mind to this day. According to the known laws of the observable universe, these letters are not supposed to go together like that. It just feels wrong to say.
Blah.
My other favorite word to pronounce is buik, which means bull in American, but chances are you won't use that word too much. My language learning pet peeve is seeing people waste their time learning useless words like buik instead of focusing on vocab that will actually be useful in daily conversation. This is exactly why I started using Speakly, a language learning platform created by 2 hyperpolyglot gigachads that's been helping me to improve my Russian. I was really hesitant for the longest time to accept a sponsorship from a language learning platform because there's just so many that I don't believe in, but I finally found one that delivers on its promises. Speakly focuses on teaching you the essential vocab you'll actually need to use in daily life. It doesn't bore you with names of rare exotic fish poop and deodorant and other useless crap. It offers a variety of engaging ways to learn vocab, and I find it to be a great supplement to my language learning routine. Speakly is available on both web and mobile for Android and iOS, and there's a free 7-day trial, so at least give it a try to see if you like it. The link is in the description. Вы, наверное, слышали, что русская грамматика невозможна. And I'll admit, it's a little challenging for monolingual betas. The language has 6 cases, which means that a noun can take up to 12 different forms depending on its function in a sentence and if it's singular or plural. The word day in American has 2 forms, either day or days if it's plural. But look at all the different ways to say day in Russian. I'm probably gonna hurt myself trying to say all these forms, so like and subscribe for the effort. Дни, день, дней, дня, дням, дню, дни, день, днями, днем, днях, дне. Plus, there are not 2 but 3 genders that make forming these different cases feel like you're getting hit by an airplane. But I'm about to drop the most important tip that applies to learning any language, but especially Russian. Just speak the language and don't worry about making mistakes. What's the worst thing that could happen? Someone misunderstands you and you die? You'll respawn anyway. And who knows? Maybe you'll hit the lottery and respawn in the United States of America, or at least a gigachad Russian-speaking country. Anyway, just don't worry about all the cases because the wonderful Uzbek people will still understand you when you get them wrong. They'll think you're an illiterate idiot who lacks formal education and ambition in life, but who cares? You probably are. Over time, I've gotten a lot better at grammar naturally from just hearing people speak, so I promise you aren't doomed forever. Another thing monolingual betas seem to love about Russian is the colorful array of curse words. But there's quite a strange dichotomy when it comes to Russian filth words. On one end of the spectrum, you've got the angry, violent, gamer rage words that you hear a lot on CSGO like and on and on. And on the other end of the spectrum, you've got the word pancake? When Russians are angry, but not angry enough to really curse, they use the word blin. Aren't pancakes an American thing? And didn't we win the Cold War? They can't use our food as a curse word. Speaking of filthy language that will make your babushka want to wash your mouth out with soap, while I do not personally condone extramarital intercourse, let's be honest, most of you are learning languages to spice up your romantic life, which is perfect because Russian women are very attractive to men. There are literally millions of Russians trying to leave their country right now, so if you're into that kind of thing, go get yourself a green card marriage. Now it's time for what I think is the most fun part of the video. Let's talk about shock factor. How will native Russians react to you speaking their language as a foreigner? Even though the language is of great international importance, a surprisingly small number of people study Russian, and an even smaller number of people actually get to a level where they can say more than a few carefully rehearsed and poorly pronounced lines of dialogue in front of a camera. From my experience, Russian speakers love when a foreigner learns their language, but just don't expect an over-the-top reaction where they're shitting on the walls and literally evaporating. They'll be happy, but it's nowhere near what you get when a white guy goes to Chinatown to order orange chicken. There's so much more I could talk about in this video, but I don't want it to be over an hour long, so it's time to give the Russian language an official rating on the simp scale. On a scale of dog water to gigachad, I place Russian solidly in the alpha tier. I certainly do simp for this language, but there are still better ones out there if I'm being honest. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to subscribe and consider supporting me on Patreon for further language learning tips and trick videos. Let me know in the comments which language you'd like me to cover in the next episode. До свидания.